Okay, so you've recorded your video podcast and it's time to send the files to your editor, or you're wanting to prepare the files to edit yourself, or you want to edit an audio and a video podcast without having to edit each episode twice. In this video, I'm going to show you a professional technique that we use at the Pod Sound School before we send our files to our video editors. Most video editors are not going to be certified or specialized in audio mixing, audio treatment, or audio production. For this reason, the technique that I'm going to show you is particularly valuable when you're working with a video editor or when you want to just edit your podcast episode in a video editing software. And that is to apply the effects and process your audio first before you bring it over into the video editing software or before you share it with your editors. This way they get professionally processed, crisp, and great sounding audio that they can just sync with the camera and replace that crappy camera audio with, and then they're good to go to start editing, and they don't really even have to worry about the audio treatment. You're definitely going to want to stick around and probably rewatch this video a couple times because I'm going to show you step by step how to set up a world-class podcast track on any microphone you have in your podcast recordings. And then even better, as a bonus, I'm going to show you how we can set this up as a template, which means you just have to open it up. It takes a matter of moments every time to apply to your recordings before you export them and share it with your team or throw it into a video editing app. Are you ready? Let's level up. Okay, I'm going to throw on some headphones, and I'm using Reaper FM, my favorite and go-to DAW. And if you know me, you know that's crazy because I'm actually a Pro Tools guy. But Reaper is amazing, and I've come to teach it in all of our courses because it's a really great DAW, and I find it to be actually more convenient than Pro Tools itself. I'm sorry, Pro Tools. Reaper takes very low CPU power, so it's wonderful to have running in the background. It's the perfect thing to record your audio locally on your machine. Say when you're live streaming with StreamYard or something, you can record a higher quality audio on your machine locally, which we do all the time. In fact, we did it in this demonstration here. It's also very intuitive, and you can get lightning fast in editing with it. It does have a little bit of a learning curve, but that's what your boy Steve's here for. But as you can see in Reaper here, we have a track on top, and that's me, and the track on bottom is Veronica. And these are different recordings. Each one of these are probably about a half an hour in length. So this is an episode that we recorded. This is an episode that we recorded. This is actually a live stream that we recorded on YouTube, but we're going to double down and make it a podcast episode too. And this was the second half of that live stream. So these files have already been created, and I could find the master folder of this project and just share these files with our editors. But then this audio would have to be treated. And it would have to be treated for lots of reasons. It has noise. We had the AC running. We need to have compression on there, EQ on there, a de-esser on there, and all that fancy professional stuff. So by processing these with effects, but also exporting them together as a stereo file, that also reduces the workload of our editors as well, because now they just have that one stereo file of me and Veronica together in one file that they can apply to the video. And then they just get to cutting, and it sounds fantastic. Shit, I better get cooking. So the first thing I'm going to introduce you to is a real hack. It's a real time saver, and it comes from Waves, and it is the Studioverse, or the Studio Rack is the name of the plugin. The Studio Rack allows you to build your own chain of multiple plugins and then save that whole chain as one thing as a preset or as a template. And that is extremely valuable when it comes to time saving. And so if this is something you're doing every week, whether it's for your own podcast, or if this is something even more importantly, you're doing professionally as a podcast editor, then this is a really cool thing to utilize. And while we're talking about podcast editing professionally, did you know that Pod Sound School has a 12-week certification program for professional podcast editors? That means in 12 weeks, you're guaranteed not only to be a professional podcast editor, but also to gain your first client, guaranteed within that 3 months. And if you're not sure that you've got what it takes to be a podcast editor for a living, we also have a free mini course called Free Podcast Edit Lab, where you actually download real podcast files, you edit your own episode, and then submit it to us for review. You can check that out by going to podcastingsmart.com/free-edit-lab. Okay, so let's open up the Studio Rack and you'll see how cool this is. What I'm going to do in Reaper is click on where it says effects, and then this allows us to filter any of the effects. Now, Reaper comes with a ton of effects, but notice if I come down here, I can actually filter by Waves. So all of the Waves plugins that I have on my computer will show up here. Now, I have the Waves Ultimate Pass, which you can get for $250 a year, I think, something like that. And it's definitely worth it because you get access to all of their plugins. But it's also unnecessary for all of us because you may just need 3 to 6 plugins to get going, and you could buy the perpetual license for those plugins, and then you're only looking at like $150 expense for your editing business. So all I'm going to do here where it says filter is I'm going to type in studio, and you'll see studio rack right here. I'm going to choose the studio rack mono and stereo, and we'll just say add. And so now, rather than adding my own chain of effects here in Reaper, which you could do, it'd be the same results. Now I can build the chain here. So the first effect that I'm going to use, and I always use this effect when there's two voices speaking together on a podcast episode, and that is a gate. And I always will apply a gate first. So I'll click this plus button right here, and I will type in gate. And look, here's the gates that I have access to. I love the C1 gate, and I like the gate that's separate from the compressor. It's the same effect, but it just gives you the gate. And this is a really cool effect because it really just has one knob that you adjust, and it's this knob right here, which is your threshold. And look, I can either adjust it over here on the left, or I can adjust it here down underneath this grid or this map. And it shows you actually what's happening. It shows you that I'm drawing a line, and it's saying this is where the gate is at on the volume spectrum. So to help that make sense very quickly, I will open up this again, move these effects out of the way so that we can see what's going on. And I'm going to solo my track. So this is the Steve track right here. And what a gate's going to do is it's saying any volume that isn't at least this loud cannot pass through this gate. So all of the stuff that's going on in my track when I'm not speaking is stuff you don't want in the mix. First and foremost is Veronica's voice speaking farther away from my microphone. It's still being picked up in my microphone. So that's the main reason for applying a gate. We want to get rid of what's called mic bleed, but also it gets rid of the room tone, maybe my breathing, a bunch of stuff you don't want to have in your podcast mix. And so this is a really cool effect because it takes care of all that for you, and you don't have to go like manually cut out all of the spots in your waveform where you're speaking. So now I can just listen to this, and let's find a place and see if we can see the gate in action. So I'll kind of put the cursor right here, and I'll press spacebar for play, and let's listen. And so you have to think about it. Well, what kind of job would I want to show up to? What kind of boss would I like to have? And as you notice on this effect here, you'll see this white line kind of wiggling back and forth. And that is actually the volume level of my voice. So by watching it, you can kind of see where the average kind of place that my speaking takes place at. If we bring the gate above that white line, it'll cut my voice out completely. And that's not good. We don't want that. What happens as any business grows. But what we do want is we want this stuff to be cut out. So what I will typically do to make this a super quick process of finding that perfect place for the gate is I'll find places where I say, and I'll make sure that those come through, and then I'll cut out everything under that, and you're usually good. That was a cool pro tip, right? Make sure you give me a thumbs up for that one. So let's see if this is a yes. It's a yes. So as long as the yes is coming through, then we're fine with this gate. Yes. And then I can also, with the release here, I like to add a little bit more to the release. I usually type in 100 here. So I know that may seem a little complex, but I'm going to continue along this illustration on Studio Steve's track before exporting this so that you can see how you would apply this to your own tracks and then set it as a preset. So now we need a compressor. So a compressor, I would type in 76 here, and this is my go-to compressor. I love it. And I will add input or increase the effect of this compressor typically until over here we see a -3 dB, another really pro tip. You're welcome. We're able to multitask on our computer and sort of sit there with each other on a Zoom meeting. And now what I could also do is add a noise reduction plugin, which will help with the air vent that I have going on in the background. And it also adds its own kind of noise gate to it. I use the NS1. I love it. It's a really great plugin, and it has one single knob. You'll notice it also has a preset here. If you look at the preset, it's called Voice Podcast, which is pretty cool. But all you have to do here is really drag the knob up, usually anywhere between 10 and 30 at the most, depending on how bad your noise is, even though we're in the same house. There's something about having both of us. Okay, and now I add a de-esser because I am not a fan of sibilants. So I just search for DS, and I have my de-esser. With the de-esser, it's already set at the frequency that it should be set at. That's that 5,000 hertz to 7,000 hertz usually, and this is at 5,500. So it's the perfect place to reduce or subdue that harsh frequency, and it will only make a reduction when the S is spoken. So let's hear that, even though we're in the same house. There's something about having both of us, we have our computer. And so we're able to notice when I say house, that's when the attenuation happens here, or this red bar kind of goes down. It's saying that it's attenuating or it's reducing that frequency whenever it's very apparent. And now finally, it wouldn't be a complete and professional track without a little EQ. So I put in F6 because I love this F6 floating EQ, and we'll do the mono EQ here. I like the RTA mono because it gives you a visualization of the waveforms as they're coming through. A new sort of philosophy. So this is a EQ spectrum, and EQ is a very deep topic. This video isn't about EQ, so I'll just quickly apply my effects. I put on a high pass filter, and I set that at 80 Hertz. This is a very common and also really good stuff. So if you want to dissect this part of the video, you'll learn a lot. And then I like to give myself a low bump. For me, it's usually in the 200 range or even like the 160 range. Let's listen to that. A new sort of philosophy I have, or a new way I have of describing, and then I'll come down here like this, and then I'll usually find some places in the mid frequencies where there's some mud, and I know that that's usually always around 1K for me. I think that 1 kilohertz or 1000 hertz is usually pretty harsh on the ears, so we'll kill that out of there. And then usually another little bump in the 3K area. If none of this makes sense and it's hurting your brain, that's totally okay. EQ is supposed to hurt your brain for a long time before it makes sense. And that's something that we cover inside of our programs. It is something that we delve into completely inside the Podcast Edit Lab. So make sure you check that out and become an audio professional. Okay, so there it is. And as you can see, that took some time. That was time consuming. And to do that every single time, is another 15, 20 minutes that you're adding to your workflow every time you record a podcast episode or every time you edit an episode for your clients. Well, with the Studio Rack, now all you have to do, right up here where it says full reset, there's this drop down arrow. I can come down here and say save as, and this will save the preset in the Studio Rack user presets, and I can save this as Studio Steve, and I could also maybe list the name of the microphone, SM7B, so I know that maybe I would have a Studio Steve setting for when I'm using a shotgun microphone, because it would be different. I may use a different compressor, I may use some different effects for a shotgun microphone. So that's it. Now I have this Studio Steve SMB, and now anytime I want, I could go to another channel. So to illustrate this with Veronica's channel, I could solo her track now, and now setting up the same Studio Rack on Veronica's channel, it's a matter of coming to my presets here, and down here where it says local presets, I have Studio Steve SM7B, and look, all that work I did has now opened up for me. Now, there's other ways that you can also achieve this in Reaper, but this is a real shiny and fantastic way that I know you're going to love me for. Also, Studioverse is what this is called, and if you log into the Studioverse, you'll find presets from professionals. You'll find it's just an amazing universe of studio effects. So I'd highly recommend checking that out. You can go to podsoundschool.com/waves, and that's our affiliation link. If you decide to purchase any plugins from Waves, that would be awesome. So now, rather than have to completely build Veronica's track from scratch, I would likely have to open up the gate and fine tune it for her microphone. And I may want to maybe use a different compressor or fine tune this compressor. And then I would choose all of the settings that I like for Veronica's voice, and we'd be good to go. So I'll do that off camera, come back, and together we will apply the final touches, which is the limiter, and then export these files to share. Okay, so now we're cooking. I had to make some adjustments on Veronica's gate and her compressor, but it didn't take me very long. And I've saved her preset, so now I have a Veronica preset every time I hop into one of these sessions. So I just saved myself almost an hour of work every week, and you too. So make sure you give me a thumbs up, comment below. So now we have a really great sounding podcast recording, and we sound clean, we sound broadcast ready, we sound beefy and delicious. So now what we need to do is add a limiter so that this is broadcast ready, and so that we get those LUFs or those loudness levels the way that we want for YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Now, that also sounds complex. Don't worry about it. I'll just illustrate what it is. So down here, this is the master fader. This is the final destination that all the tracks of your mix go to before it's exported. It's also sometimes called the LR or the stereo bus. Here, I'm actually going to apply an effect. And there are a ton of cool limiters. All of the L limiters of Waves are really cool. I like the L1 or the L2. Let's do the L2 for this mix here. And this basically is a type of compressor. It helps us with distortion protection, helps us to boost the mix a little bit more, just even everything out so that it's broadcast ready. Here I just bring the out ceiling down to -1, and I usually bring the threshold down to -3, -4. We may decide to boost it a little bit more. I think this is looking pretty good. And now all we have to do is export these files as a stereo file, And then we give this stereo file and the file from our camera to our editors, or we pull all of that into a video editing program. And then we have to sync this stereo file with the video and dump out that old camera audio. And now we've got professional video mixed with professional audio from our sweet podcast microphones. And then we can just cut that video up. And now we have a video podcast that we can share to Spotify and YouTube. And then if you're sharing it to Spotify, Spotify will redistribute that as an audio podcast to Apple Podcasts, Samsung, Amazon Music, and all the other ones. So exporting is easy enough inside Reaper. You just highlight the area that you want to export. There's a quick key, Option Command R for render, or you can come up to where it says File and say Render. And then you just give it a destination where you want it to go. I'll just put this on the desktop for now. And this is perfect. This is CJ48 Work From Home Secrets. That is the name of it. I'll make sure that it's stereo. 44.1K is fine. I could go push it up to 96K if I wanted to, which I do sometimes. And then you just say Save Settings As, and it's very important here to change entire project, change this to time selection, which means it's just going to export the selection of time that I created up here by dragging and my mouse to create this marquee. And you can still adjust this time selection even while the render window is open. So I'll have the time selection here. That looks good. And then I'll say Save Settings As, and now I just render one file. Here it gives you an opportunity actually to look at the LUFS or the loudness readings. And you'll see that Reaper is exporting this at 14 times real speed. And I love that it also gives you a visualization of the export as it's happening as well too. This is another opportunity inside Reaper to take a look at those LUFS and make sure you're not pushing it too hard, and then hop back into Reaper, make any adjustments that you have to make. So what do you think? Hopefully you found this video really useful. And when it comes to podcast editing, I have a ton of podcast editing videos that are real game changers right here on YouTube. I made a playlist for you here you can watch where I share my 2 top tips. I share some other effects that are game changers. I actually go into gates a little bit more. So dive into that playlist, learn some more, add some assets to your intellectual enterprise, and keep coming back and checking in with us.